What if I told you that the food you're eating to get healthy and lose weight is actually making you fat and sick? Yep, the unfortunate reality is that a huge percentage of the food we're recommended to eat is destroying your gut, wrecking your hormones, and killing your energy. So I spent the last 15 years helping my clients lose weight by researching the connection between different foods and ingredients and how they interact with our bodies. And in this video, I'm gonna show you 4 different types of healthy foods and ingredients that you're likely eating that are actually destroying your fat loss or health goals. I'll let you know exactly how these are wrecking your body, and I'll give you some highly actionable tips on how to swap these foods out so you can start to actually see some effortless results. So a couple of summers ago, I was working with a weight loss client. We'll call her Jennifer, and she was single in her mid-30s and had a super busy corporate job and wanted to lose about 20 pounds. So we cleaned up her diet. She started moving a little bit more and made some simple lifestyle changes and was doing a lot of the right things. It was really great, and guess what? She started losing weight almost immediately. It was really exciting for her, but then all of a sudden, everything just kind of stopped. Now, since fat loss isn't linear, it's pretty normal for this to happen, so I wasn't really that worried. But after about 3 weeks, Jennifer said that her scale hadn't really budged at all. So I asked her to give me a detailed breakdown of her eating, nothing out of the ordinary, until she told me what she was snacking on. She had been having about 1 to 2 tablespoons of almond butter every day. So I told Jennifer she should do a little experiment. Take the nut butter out for a couple of weeks and slightly increase her portion sizes with everything else just to account for the loss in fat from the almond butter. She was obviously a little reluctant because nut butters are incredibly delicious, but she did it and the weight just started to come right off. 2 pounds a week like clockwork. So what's going on here? Well, there's a lot, but let's talk about one thing in particular. So nuts and nut butters are high in a monounsaturated fatty acid called oleic acid. And oleic acid can actually make it harder for your body to use carbohydrates efficiently. So there's this really long, complicated biochemical mechanism here, but basically, when you eat a lot of oleic acid, it causes your body to use more fat for energy instead of carbs. And while this might sound good for losing fat, it can actually contribute to insulin resistance at the cellular level, which ultimately makes it harder for your body to process sugars and can lead to higher blood sugar levels. And over time, this can reduce your body's ability to burn fat effectively, making it harder to lose weight. So if you're trying to lose fat, you might want to limit foods that are really high in oleic acid like nuts and nut butters, especially when eating them with carbs like bread. So I'd avoid something like avocado toast as well. On top of that, nuts are full of plant defense chemicals that can impair the absorption of certain minerals like zinc, iron, magnesium, and calcium, which is really bad. And then if they're roasted, which reduces the plant defense chemical activity, the heating process can actually oxidize and damage the fats in the nuts, which can lead to inflammation in your digestive system and your body. And none of this is gonna be good for fat loss. But seriously though, if you think I'm full of shit, that's totally okay. But I would just say to be open-minded and try it for a month before you make any judgments, because this can actually definitely help. And interestingly, this next ingredient, especially when combined with oleic acid, is a complete disaster. Now, what if I told you that this heart-healthy ingredient is in nearly all processed foods? But the reality is that it single-handedly might be the biggest contributor to weight gain and poor health that we've seen over the last 60 plus years. So let's see if you can figure out what it is. So what common ingredient is in these 3 foods? So we have commercial salad dressings, healthy frozen dinners, and roasted seaweed snacks. So why do we want to get rid of these? What do they all have in common? And to some degree, aren't these all kind of promoted as healthy things to eat? Well, here's the thing though. They're not healthy at all, and here's why. So these 3 types of foods, the salad dressing, the frozen dinner, and the seaweed snacks, all contain high amounts of omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids or refined seed oils. And here are 5 reasons why we want to stop eating these highly processed oils. So polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs, particularly linoleic acid, are known to be estrogenic, so they can increase estrogen levels. And excess estrogen is not going to be good for fat loss, since estrogen promotes cell growth, including fat cells, and fat cells are also hormonally active and promote estrogen production. So it's kind of this weird vicious cycle. And because they increase estrogen, that means they can decrease testosterone. So it's not gonna be good for guys. But not only that, PUVAs can also downregulate thyroid activity by overburdening your liver, which can slow down your metabolic rate. They're also pro-inflammatory and increase cortisol, and chronically elevated levels of cortisol are associated with fat accumulation, particularly around the belly. And when it comes to fat storage, the conversion of linoleic acid to arachidonic acid, which is just a breakdown product of linoleic acid, can trigger pathways that promote fat storage. And this process is linked to an increase in de novo lipogenesis, which is the generation of new fat cells. And interestingly, the oleic acid in nuts helps this process happen. But there's even more that these omega-6 polyunsaturated fats do. And if you're consuming any food that contains oils like soybean, canola, vegetable, sunflower, safflower, corn, peanut, or cottonseed oil, you gotta try to remove these from your nutrition, which typically means that you're gonna have to say goodbye to the vast majority of ultra-processed foods out there. And this is gonna be a huge step in healthy fat loss. But to me, these are literal poison, and I avoid these as much as I physically can. But if we're not supposed to be eating these, then what types of fat should we be consuming? Well, the best fats to replace these highly processed oils are gonna be saturated fats like butter, ghee, tallow, and coconut oil. Now, there's another type of ingredient that's being shoved down our throats that, in my opinion, is a bit of a scam. So here's an analogy. You know how there can be a lot of miscommunication when it comes to texting? Like when you're texting back and forth with someone, the message can sometimes be a little unclear, ambiguous, and may lead to a little bit of confusion. But if you talk to someone face to face, it's a lot easier to fully understand a person based on the exact words communicated, tone and inflection, and then even body language as well. So this is what plant-based proteins are. They're just not quite as good as the real thing. They're similar that they have adequate amounts of essential amino acids, but your body isn't really as good at absorbing them compared to animal proteins like meat and eggs. And a huge problem is that the mainstream narrative is telling us that they're healthier for us, but that's just simply not true, because there's one big reason that plant-based proteins should be avoided, and this is the biggest reason to stop eating them. A lot of them contain measurable levels of heavy metals. So according to a 2018 report conducted by the Clean Label Project, where they examined 134 of the leading protein powders, 75% of the plant-based powders had measurable levels of lead and contained twice the amount of lead per serving compared to other products. 55% of the plant-based protein powders also had measurable levels of the endocrine disruptor BPA, and the organic powders actually averaged twice as many heavy metals compared to the non-organic powders. Now, since animal proteins like grass-fed beef, pasture-raised eggs, and raw dairy don't contain heavy metals, they also have higher bioavailability and also contain numerous different types of vitamins and minerals. These should be the best protein sources. But there's one other huge problem that plant-based foods have. Well, it's not just plant-based foods, it's actually a lot of processed foods. First, let's play another guessing game though. Here are 3 more foods that have a really common awful ingredient that almost no one talks about. So we have almost all ice creams, nut milk or just the fake nut milks in general, and then sauces like sriracha. Okay, so what is it? What do they have in common? Well, the commonality among these products are additives, particularly gums like xanthan gum and gelum gum and carrageenan. Now, if you don't know what gums are, they're commonly used as thickeners, stabilizers, and emulsifiers in a variety of different processed foods. They kind of just improve the texture of the product. So the problem with these though is that they're not digested well by the human body. What actually happens is they pass through the digestive system largely unchanged, which can lead to bloating, gas, and discomfort since they interact with different bacteria in our intestines. And if there's one huge takeaway from this video, it's that being healthy along with effective weight loss starts in your gut. It starts in your digestive system. So if your digestion isn't working properly, if you have gut issues, inflammation, or any digestive distress at all, you've got some work to do, and that's something to heavily prioritize. Now, since gums and pretty much all other additives create digestive distress, removing these will considerably help improve your digestion, which will further help with fat loss and boosting your health. So if you want to get rid of sketchy additives and replace these foods with better options, here's what you can do. First, always check the labels and make sure there aren't any gums in them. And when it comes to ice cream, you can actually make your own with high quality ingredients like raw milk, raw cream, and raw organic honey. You can also drink raw milk instead of weird fake nut milks. And there are actually hot sauce brands that don't use horrible ingredients. So again, you just have to read the labels. Now, if you avoid these 4 things, that's gonna be a pretty good start, but it's not really gonna be enough though. So if you really wanna lose some belly fat and improve your health, watch this video right here where I'll give you 5 incredibly easy science-backed fat loss tips.